Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to today's Cathedra webinar. We're coming to you live on August 2nd. If we have any first timers here today who don't know, our Cathedra webinars get their name from the Creek word for learning. Today, you're going to be learning how to make sure that your small business can compete with the retail giants from Russ Siegel, who's the executive director of a native CDFI called the Sequoia Fund. I'm Brooke Warrington, the Training and Development Specialist. Everybody here at the Native Learning Center is so happy you could join us today. If you could follow along while I read the disclaimer aloud, this webinar provides a summary of fundamental concepts, requirements, and/or procedures within the allotted 90 minutes. The material discussed does not illustrate all possible scenarios that could be applicable. We also have our copyright infringement law pictured here. So just a friendly reminder that the webinar materials are protected by copyright, trademark, trade secret, and other intellectual property laws. Before we get going today, I want you to know how to interact during the presentation. So if you look to the top of your screen, you'll see an icon of a hand with a plus sign. If you click on that, you could raise your hand, you could agree, disagree, show applause, show laughter, or even signal requests asking the instructor to speak louder or to slow down, please. Now your screen should look similar to this graphic here. Down at the bottom left, you'll see the Files pod. Here you can find a copy of today's presentation available for download. Just hover over the item and then you'll click on that down arrow. It should save it onto your device's download section. Then in the middle, we have the web links pod. There you can find a link to today's webinar feedback survey. You can subscribe to the NLC email list and receive our weekly newsletter. You could friend us on LinkedIn, and you can also download the Adobe Connect app. Then all the way over to the right, we have the chat pod available. Here's where you can talk with the NLC staff as well as today's instructor. We do welcome those comments and questions, so just click on that box that says type here, and once you have what you want to say, you can hit enter or you can click that up arrow button icon to submit. Before we get started, we could go ahead and get the chat box going. If y'all want to click in there and let us know your name, where you're joining us from, tribal affiliation, and whatever your work or your role is in Indian country. And with that, it is with great pleasure that I introduce today's webinar instructor, Russ Siegel. And Russ, I'm going to hand it off to you now.
Thank you, Brooke. Welcome, everybody. It's afternoon where I am, but if it's morning where you are, good morning or good afternoon. Good Friday, everybody. Looking forward to the weekend and looking forward to this topic today. I've done several topics lately, and this, I think, is probably one of my favorites because I spent so much of my career in retail, both in big box stores and in small retailers, and working with a lot of retailers. Sequoia Fund is located in Cherokee, North Carolina. We are for about the last 60 years, we've been a tourist destination for people across the Southeast U.S. It's a great place to come and spend some time in our rivers, our mountains, and now our casino. But hey, we've had a lot of things going on here for years that has sparked a lot of retail activity. So many of our clients are retailers, and we work closely with them to help them increase their sales, make sure customers are happy, make sure they keep coming back. And so, like I said, I've been doing this for a long, long time. And hopefully today I'm going to impart some things that I've learned over the years to help you, whether you are in the retail space or you are helping people who are in the retail space. Because this is a retail specific webinar, I'm going to do something a little bit different today. Normally, I try to speak in broad terms, and I try to make things very applicable no matter what kind of environment you work in, whether you're in an office or whether you work in a service business or a product-based business. Today, I'm going to speak very specifically to retail, people who are selling, who are interacting with customers. But if you, in your tribal role, are working with retailers, this is going to be for you. This is something that I think translates well. You're going to be able to work well with your retailers and take some of this knowledge back to them to help them improve. So just like Brooke was requesting, if you would jump into the chat, let me know where you're hailing from and your tribal affiliation, and let me know what role you play in that retail space. Are you a counselor? Are you a consultant? Has your tribe tasked you with economic development in retail? Or are you a retail store owner or manager yourself? If you would just go ahead and let me know that, I think that is going to help us as we go through this time together. I'm going to break it down really simply for you because we're going to talk about the only two things that we sell, and we all sell exactly the same two things, no matter what retail store you find yourself. If you're a t-shirt shop, if you are a souvenir store, if you're a sporting goods store, an electronics store, grocery store, it really doesn't matter what you sell. We all sell the same two things. And if we can wrap our head around those two things and how we position those two things and how we position ourselves to sell those two things, life becomes so much easier. It becomes very stress-free that we don't have to start. We don't have to continue to think about the millions of things we could sell. We just have to focus on the two things we do sell. I'm going to give you the laws of the customer. The laws of the customer are, there are only three of those, and they're very simple. And if we understand those laws and we keep those laws in front of us, then these immutable laws, these unchanging laws, are going to help us focus in on the only reason we exist, and that is for our customers. If we don't have customers, we don't have a business. Let's see. Lindell worked in retail since 91, cashier, assistant manager, stock. Okay, a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything. Won't take on store manager. Hey, only us dummies have done that. You, you smart people have avoided jumping into the middle of that volcano. So good on you. We're going to talk about how big box stores see the world. And if we can change our perspective and see the world a little bit differently, it can make a big difference in how we approach our customers and how we make our customers happy and how we can grow our business. We'll talk about some common small retailer mistakes. And trust me, I've seen them all. I've made most of them. But today, I still see retailers making some of these mistakes. And if we can, sometimes success is because of what you do, but often success is because of what you avoid. And if we can avoid making these mistakes, that puts us well ahead of the game. We'll talk about changing that mom and pop mindset. And there's nothing wrong with the mom and pop mindset, but the mom and pop mindset is I'm a small town operator. I'm a small business. I'm in here every day behind the counter. Maybe I'm wearing an apron serving coffee. I'm doing my thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a deliberate decision to stay small. But sometimes if you're good at what you do, your business is going to really want to grow. It's going to start pushing you for growth. And if you continue to have the mom and pop mindset, you can strangle your business to death. And we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that if you are going to remain that little 1 or 2 person operation, that you're deliberate about it. But if you have an opportunity to grow, you cannot stay in that same mindset. And I'm going to give you some giant killer strategies. So just like if, Jack and the Beanstalk, we're going to take down the giants. And there are a lot of small operations out there today doing just that. There's some retailers that we believe are big box retailers, and they are bigger than normal, but they're still small in comparison to the Walmarts, the Targets, Dick's Sporting Goods, Best Buy, those types of things. But they're doing really well, and they're employing some of these giant killer strategies. And then we'll talk a little bit about your future goals and how to take the business to the next level. So let's jump right in and talk about those two simple things that we all sell. And it doesn't matter what products are going across the counter and walking out the door with your customers. We all sell a solution to a problem, and we sell a good feeling. And you don't have to do both of those. If you just sell a solution to a problem, if you have a hardware store and you know exactly what type of deck screw this person needs to build their project, you've solved a problem. You are the solution. You're not selling screws. You're selling a finished deck. You're selling a safe, well-built deck. I used to have a college professor who said, "We're not selling the steak, we're selling the sizzle." And that's really what the good feeling is about. I've been to Disney World, never been to Disneyland, but I've been to Disney World a few times. And I've got to say, as theme parks go, it's not the greatest theme park in the world. I'm a roller coaster guy. I love roller coasters. And I've been to parks with fantastic roller coasters. But Disney gives you a great feeling because it's an experience. It's a total experience. It's not just you're going there for the roller coasters. You're going there for the character encounters. You're going there for everything that Disney encompasses. So if you need a family vacation and you say, I want to go dump some money in Orlando, uh, well, I can promise you that they're going to help you solve that problem. They're going to say, okay, here's how you get your plane ticket. They're going to help you out with your accommodations, your food options, your park tickets, everything that wraps around making that a great experience. Disney is going to help you with that. And there are travel agents who specialize in Disney experiences. And talk about a good feeling. I mean, you bring your kids home, you're hot, you're sweaty, you're exhausted, you're broke, and your kids are saying, "When can we go again? When can we go again?" And that's really what every retailer wants to hear. When can we go back? When can I come back to your store? I can't wait until that next experience. So you don't have to do both of these things, but if you can solve a problem and create a good feeling around that, hey, that's a home run. You have really scored. And most businesses never put those two things together. Sometimes we can solve a problem and we make people feel bad about it. Well, there's no love in that. You know, I can sell you the right deck screws, but if I make you feel foolish because you've never built anything before, I'm giving you a bad feeling. So you can get by with just one of these things, but you really want to strive to sell the problems, the solution to the problem and the good feeling. That puts you well ahead of everyone else. Now, I told you that while we're selling two things, customers are following three laws. And they all adhere to these. And for just a moment, I want you to put your customer hat on. Even if you've never worked in retail, if you don't work in retail, you've you've been to a retail store. You've shopped in retail. You've spent money in retail. Retail is what makes the world go round. Consumer spending is the key driver of the US economy. So you're a customer. Put that customer hat on for just a moment and see if you follow these three laws. Number one, we go where we get the best value. I'm not going to go somewhere to spend more money just so I can say I spent more money to buy the same thing I could have gotten for a lot less money. Now, I live in Western North Carolina. Um, we are about an hour and a half north of Greenville, South Carolina, closer to 2 hours north of Greenville, South Carolina. And we used to joke that our grandmother would drive to Greenville, South Carolina for a deal on a head of lettuce. This woman would go to every store in town. She would burn $10 worth of gas to save $7.50. But this was her thing. She loved the feeling of getting a good value. But we're all like that. And we go where we're treated well. But the third law brings it all together. We will leave if 1 and 2 are not obvious and consistent. If I'm getting good value from you and you treat me like dirt, or worse, if you're just apathetic and you never acknowledge me and you don't care whether I'm there or not, I would almost rather somebody treat me poorly. That way I know I'm not wanted and I can go somewhere else. But if you ignore me, that's a terrible feeling. That's why the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. It's just not caring at all. Um, if I don't feel that caring from you, if I don't know that I'm getting good value from you and that you're treating me well, I'm going somewhere else. And there are some exceptions to every law. And I do want to talk about that because when we look at how big box stores view the world, we kind of run into areas where maybe that law gets maybe we can work around that law a little bit if we have to. But let's start at the bottom. You'll notice the size of these words. The fonts are different sizes. And it's really because big box stores look at the world through the lens of competitors. Yes, they want to be where customers can access them easily. They want to be where it's easy for you to find parking and so forth. But really, they're looking at, are there competitors in this space? Because if there are competitors in this space, maybe there's an opportunity for us. Are there no competitors in this area? Because that might also present an opportunity for us to come in. Maybe Walmart builds first because Target isn't there. But then Target looks around and says, hey, wait a minute, we can't let Walmart be there and not be there. We have to be there. So they're going to go down the street. They're going to build maybe even on the other side of town. But that's how big box stores see the world. It's really about their position in the world as it relates to their competitors. If I have a shoe store, I want to be where there are clothing stores and where there are maybe other people selling shoes, because I know that people, when they shop, they usually don't just go to one store. Sometimes they'll take a day and they'll shop a lot of different stores. Car dealerships, for example. Car dealerships and restaurants tend to cluster because today you may want tacos. Tomorrow you may want steak. The next day you may want pizza. So we're going to cluster. But if you're shopping for a Honda, you might also shop for a Chevrolet, for a Toyota, for a Chrysler. And so they're not necessarily looking for, how do I beat my competitors, but how do I become part of the mix? How do I become part? How does our brand become part of the universe of consideration? The universe of consideration says, if I'm thinking about buying a car, I might be looking for the Honda, but across the street there's a really good looking Toyota. I might want to go take that one for a test drive too. Now, even though I was thinking Honda, Toyota has become part of that universe of consideration. But then they look at things in terms of suppliers. Can I streamline my supply chains? Can we optimize our warehousing? Can we optimize our backroom space, our shelf space? Will our suppliers pay us slotting fees to have this expensive real estate in our store? If you have a small store and you want to carry a product, you may call that supplier and say, would you please sell me some product? And they'll sell you some product. If you are a big box store, you will, if you're a big box store, you're going to wait for those suppliers to call you. The supplier's going to say, please, can we have some shelf space? And as a big box store, you're going to say, well, that shelf space is really valuable. That's expensive real estate. We want you to pay us a slotting fee because that's how we're going to make some of our money. We're going to make money on your product before anyone ever buys one. So suppliers are a huge part of that equation. And then we have the customers. Now, customers are at the top of that pyramid, but it's also the smallest typeface. And here's where the laws, those unchanging laws, sometimes start to butt up against what we need to do in our lives. Okay, let's think about it this way. You need a plunger at 3 o'clock in the morning. You hate Walmart. You try to avoid Walmart at all costs, but your toilet's backed up. Walmart is open 24 hours a day. Where are you going to buy a plunger? Now, if there's a truck stop down the road and they sell plungers, great. You have options. But let's say Walmart 24 hours is your only option. You're going to go to Walmart because that's it. And Walmart knows that. And I'm just using Walmart as a reference point here. But if I'm the only business in town open 24 hours, I know that I've got you, whether you want to shop with me or not. I can have a really crabby attitude. I can have terrible customer service, but you're going to shop with me because you have no other choice. Now, we all heard back during 2008, the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, we heard the term too big to fail. And it's not that retailers are too big to fail, but sometimes they can be too big to care. Now, while we're on the topic, let's talk about too big. When you become big, you develop a target, and there becomes a target on your back, and everybody wants to get at you. Your competitors want to come after you. The government wants to come after you. Economic developers want to come after you. The public wants to come after you. Environmentalists want to come after you because you shouldn't build over there. You should build a smaller store somewhere else. The NIMBYs come after you, the not in my backyard folks. When you get big, you start to become a target for a lot of different groups. Well, that means you're on the radar. And it also means that you now have sort of a responsibility. Your first store, maybe you just went into an abandoned storefront and you built it, and you used what was there and you created something from nothing, but you were using this old canvas of a store. Well, now you're moving out into suburbia, you're getting bigger. Now you have to do those environmental studies. You have to play nice with economic developers. So your worldview changes as you grow. And for some reason, customers tend to slip down on that list of importance. But I love people who say, "Well, I'll never shop at Walmart." Well, trust me, again, if they're the only game in town and they've beaten back all of these naysayers and they've jumped through all the hoops that they have to build a store, and they're the only game in town that's open for 24 hours, trust me, you're going to buy your plunger there because that's what you have. A lot of times people say, "Well, I had a terrible experience on United Airlines. I will never fly United Airlines again." Okay. But what if you have a sick relative and United Airlines is the only airline flying to that destination that day and you have to get there? You're going to fly them. So that's really the exception to the rule, is when people are forced into that situation. I don't get good value from you. You don't treat me well, but I don't really have any other choice but to buy from you. Now, what that means is I'm going to be your buyer. I'm going to be a buyer today, but I'm not going to be your customer. And I think that's what we have to understand is the difference right there between big box and small retailers. We want people to be customers. We want to better our competitors. We want to play nice with our suppliers and work well with them and get the best deal we can. And we want to build a customer base. We don't want to have a bunch of people who just come in and buy reluctantly and never come back. We want to build customers. Another of my favorite college professors 35 years ago said, "Business is simple. Keep the customers you have and get more." Wow. So we only sell two things. Customers adhere to three laws. And if we do two things, if we keep the customers we have and get more, we are starting to put a dent in those giants. We're going to start to take a bite out of their pie. Years and years ago, you might remember A&P grocery stores. It was the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company at the time. And it grew so large that legislators all across the country said, "Oh, they're too big. They're too big. We've got to scale them back. They're killing mom and pop retailers," even though they started as a small mom and pop store. And then along came J.C. Penney and Montgomery Ward, and Kroger and Sears. And politicians did the same thing to them. Oh, they're too big. They're too big. They're too big. And then Kmart at one time was the largest retailer in the country, just like A&P. It took A&P's place as one of the largest retailers in the country. And people said, Kmart is too big. We got to shut down Kmart. We got to make sure they can't build here. And then along came Walmart. Walmart had the target on its back. So you see that big retailers have a lot of things to consider, and customers are really not even a secondary thought. We're kind of third on that list. If you can build a business where that script is upside down and customers now become the biggest thing for you, you may not have to worry about your competitors. Stay focused on the customer. And putting our hats back on again, our customer hats, let's think about the things that we insist on, that you insist on when you shop. But as a retailer, we've got to remember that our customers insist on these 10 things: personalization, convenience, unique in-store experiences, quality customer service, omni-channel presence, technology integration, brand authenticity and values, data privacy and security, competitive pricing, and loyalty programs. I want to break this down for you with a few stories. Personalization. I'm going to tell you a story about a bookstore here in town. It's 15 minutes out of Cherokee, and it's called City Lights Bookstore, next door in Sylva, North Carolina. It's always been a small family-owned bookstore, and it's been a thriving bookstore, a small bookstore in a small town doing very, very well. Now, when my daughter was in middle school and high school, she still is a voracious reader. Man, this kid can read. She gets that from her great-grandmother. Her great-grandmother would read, 5 or 6 books a week. And my daughter, Maddie, when the Harry Potter series came out, she really got into those. And when they would have a new Harry Potter book come out, those books were released at midnight, usually on a Friday night or a Saturday night. And they would have a big party, and everybody would show up in their pajamas with their magic wands, and they would drink butterbeer, and they'd have a big party, and then they would be able to, at midnight, pick up their books that they had pre-ordered. And we would race home in the middle of the night, and by the next morning, she's finished this 600-page book. I've seen the girl read it twice in a single weekend. But here's where the personalization comes in. When she was in high school, she had a class where she had to purchase a journal. Now, for those of you who may not know, a journal is a book with no words that is more expensive than most books with words. Had I known that you could publish books with no words and make this kind of money, I would have jumped on that gig years ago. But we go to the bookstore, and it's been a while since we've been in there. It's probably been 6 or 8 months since we've been in the bookstore. She walks in the door, and the guy behind the counter says, Madeline, it is so good to see you. I haven't seen you in forever. How have you been? It's so good to have you back. What can I help you find today? And she had this look on her face like, I can't believe they remember my name. So we bought the really expensive book with no words in it. And as we're leaving, she said the same thing that you want people to say when they leave your business. She said, and I'll never forget this, Dad, they know me here. They get me here. I love this place, and I never want to buy books anywhere else. How would your world be if everyone who walked out of your store said that? But that kind of personalization where you just learn people's names. Maybe the personalization is that you know that every time you get a new shipment of red sweaters, this person buys a new red sweater. They love red sweaters. Convenience. Convenience doesn't necessarily have to be about being open 24 hours. Convenience sometimes means that we do the little things to make it easy for people to shop with us. Have you ever been to a store where it's really hard to pull the door open? Maybe the door sticks, or maybe the door is a little bit narrow, or maybe you have to walk up a couple of steps to get into the door. It might be convenient for 80 or 90% of the population, but if you have a cane, a walker, or a wheelchair, or a service dog, it may not be convenient for you. As we get older, we require more lumens to be able to see. Once you hit about age 40, the amount of light needed to see something goes up, and it goes up every year throughout the rest of your life. So if you see that you have a lot of older customers, hey, turn the lights up in that place, get some better lighting. And sometimes that makes things more convenient for them, because now they don't have to fumble for their glasses. They don't have to take things over to the window or closer to a light to be able to read a tag. Convenience can be in the little things. People are also looking for unique in-store experiences, which means I want something here that I'm not going to get anywhere else. A unique in-store experience might be tied to the personalization. It might be, hey, while you're here, Maddie, I know you're here to shop for a journal, but I know you love the Harry Potter series. Let me show you this other book by this other author who I think you'll really love. See, now that is like a personal Google. That's a personal recommendation that somebody is saying, I know you well enough to know not just the product that you like, but the type of product you like. If you like this, you're going to love that. That's a unique in-store experience. Another unique in-store experience might be simply the music that you play. Look, if I have a skateboard shop, I'm not going to be playing Billy Joel elevator music. I'm probably going to be playing something a little more modern, maybe some hip hop, maybe some alternative rock. I'm going to be playing something that matches my customers. But if I have a dress shop that serves women 50 and over, I'm not playing the Slash Your Mama death metal. I'm playing the Billy Joel elevator music. I'm going to play something that matches my customers so that they feel like they belong. And when the music and the lighting and the smells and everything that goes into that experience, when it matches what our customers are expecting and what they want, that becomes a unique in-store experience, because, as we'll see, big box stores don't give you that. And that's a place where they want to spend more time. And statistically, if we get people to spend more time in our store, they will spend more money. We want a quality customer service experience. We want to know that people acknowledge us, that they care about us, that they're not hovering over us and trying to force us to buy something, but they're not ignoring us either. And a quality customer service experience can be something as simple as, hey, I've seen you carrying this around for a while. Would you like me to take that to the register for you so that you can continue to shop? There's another law out there. It's a lesser known law. It's the law of two hands. And that law says that when you run out of hands, you stop shopping. So if you're in a small store and you don't have carts or buggies or anything like that, that you can, maybe the hand baskets that people can put things in, when you see someone carrying something around for a long time in a retail store, they already own it. They just haven't purchased it. And what I mean by that is, in their brain, it's theirs. They just have to go through the motion of giving you some money to walk out with it legally, right? But if they're holding on to it, it's theirs. Make an offer to hold on to that at the register. Let them continue to shop. Give them more time. Help them be more comfortable. While I'm taking this to the register, is there anything I can get for you? Hey, something as simple as that is a quality customer service experience. What's the opposite of that? Well, if you're trying to check out and I'm texting my friend behind the register and I'm not paying any attention to you and I'm chewing gum and I'm on my phone and you're the least of my concerns, or worse yet, you are now a distraction because I really have to take the trash out. I really have to clean the countertop. I can't take care of you because I have to do this task. When you as a customer become a distraction to me because I think my job is something other than taking care of you, that is not a quality customer service experience. Now, I can finish the task and I can smile and I can be nice, but there's no making up for how I first made you feel. So we've got to focus on that customer service experience. How many times have you been in a big box store and somebody says, "How are you doing?" And you say, "I'm great. How are you?" And they say, "Well, I had to work an extra shift today. Man, I hate this place." Okay. Not exactly the answer we were looking for. We want to train people that we are there for our customers, and our customers are going to take care of us. That creates that atmosphere that makes it easier to provide a quality customer service experience. What do we mean by omni-channel presence? Omni-channel just means that we need to be in a lot of different places, not just in the store. We need to have a website. If you don't have a website in 2024, you really are out of business. You don't have a business. You're not serious about business if you don't have a website. You have to have a website. But you also have to be on social media. It's just the reality of the world we live in now. You don't have to be everywhere. Um, Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if anybody here follows Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a New Yorker. He took over his parents' wine shop and he turned it into a global powerhouse, number one wine cellar in the world. And he cusses like a sailor, but he's got some really good advice. And one of the pieces of advice that I disagree with, he has a very you have to be everywhere all the time mentality. His mindset is that you should be on all social media all the time, answering all the questions. Well, that's okay. But what if none of your customers are on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter? What if none of your customers are on Snapchat? What if all of your customers are on Instagram? Why would you waste time with anything else? But omnichannel presence doesn't just limit itself to being online. If other retailers in your area are getting business from newspaper ads, you know, some of those old school things like newspaper, radio, billboards might be something to consider. And I don't dismiss those old school channels just out of hand because I think that in some locations that's what people are looking for. So here's the rule. You need to be located. You need to be present. You need to be visible anywhere your customers are looking for information. If they're looking for information in travel magazines, if they're looking for information in a tribal newspaper, billboards, wherever they are looking for information, that's where you need to be. So here's some homework. We've got to start asking our customers, where do you find information? Where did you find information about us? How did you see us? Well, maybe I was just walking by. Okay, well, that's good. That means your signs are working. But where do you get information about businesses like ours? How do you get information about traveling to areas like ours? We've got to do a little bit of that homework. Technology integration. I'm just going to say one word and let it go at that because I really believe this encompasses everything. And that word is Square. I think Square was such a huge game changer for small retailers. When you have a product that is a little box that sits on your counter that takes the place of a big, bulky, hard to program and hard to use cash register, it tracks your inventory, it tracks your customers, it tracks loyalty programs, it handles your daily sales, it feeds directly into your bookkeeping, it plays nice with other software. I think Square was a huge seismic shift in small retail. Now, PayPal and some others are catching up. There are some online stores where I shop, and I can tell what technology they use based on the card. If I start to put in a card and it says, "Hey, wait a minute, we recognize your email address and the card that you're putting in here," maybe they've linked it with Stripe or something like that. I don't have to put all that information in. And that goes to convenience. That technology integration has just made it easier for me to spend money. Now, when I go to Home Depot, when I slide my card, that's all I have to do. I slide my card and it says, do you want an email receipt? I click yes. And it knows that that card is linked to my email. It just sends me a receipt. I don't have to fool with the paper. That's some technology integration, but small stores can do that now. You don't have to be Home Depot to be able to have that technology. So what does it mean to have brand authenticity and values? Whether you're a one-person organization, two-person organization, or 100,000-person organization, you have a set of values that you portray to your customers. You have a set of values that they see and they believe. And sometimes they say those values align with my values, and I want to shop with a company that aligns with my values. Now, this is where it gets a little bit dicey. And I'm going to throw a warning out there. Take it for what it's worth. It's absolutely free. It's worth what you're paying for it. But we're in a presidential election year. And anytime there is a major election, and this goes all the way down to the tribal level, because we have seen businesses rise and fall based on who people support for chief or vice chief. And so it's not just a presidential election, but if you choose to put your political beliefs out there, people are going to associate those with you and your brand. A lot of businesses choose to do that very openly. They say, we as a business believe that you should vote this way. We actually Sequoia Fund dropped a couple of vendors during the last presidential election because we got emails that said, if you don't vote for this person for president, we really don't want you as a customer because you shouldn't even live here. You should go to another planet. You should die. We don't like you. And I thought, wow, that's a strange way to get people to like you and give you money. So we have people who are blue, we have people who are red, but all of those groups have green money. And why do we want to alienate half of our customer base? We can align our values with our customers without having to do it in a way that alienates people. If people know that we are ethical, if people know that we are environmentally responsible, that we give money to conservation projects, that we give money to tribal historical projects, that we participate in local events, that we take care of, maybe every year we sponsor a softball team that's going to travel to a NAO event or something like that. We get that reputation by saying, this is what we believe. This is how we're going to be part of this community. And that's what you're not going to get with a big box store. Yes, big box stores will write checks, but they don't show up. And we'll talk about that in just a second. We also have to think about data privacy and security. We have to assure people that if we have their credit card information, we're going to do everything we can to protect it. If we have their home address because we deliver, we're going to do everything we can to protect that. Now, I'm going to go back to number 6 here for just a second, because I think technology integration and data privacy go hand in hand. There's an old saying that you want to fly on the last airline that crashed. And part of that thinking is because if an airline has a crash, they're going to go through every piece of equipment with a fine-tooth comb, and they're going to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So they're going to go from the headline news to the safest airline in the sky. I think the same thing applies to data and technology. When Square was first starting out, and this is probably close to 10 years ago, they had a major data breach. They were hacked, and they looked terrible. They had egg all over their face, and a lot of people left Square. But Square came out very publicly and said, we are going to work to make this right. We're going to fix this, and we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again. We know what our vulnerabilities are, and we're going to make this right for you. And they did. They followed up on that. They followed through on that. They became a very secure company. And I was telling people at the time, don't pay attention to the headlines. If you're starting out now, Stripe is probably where you want to be, because they're the airline that crashed last. And so Square has become a very secure company in taking care of small retailers' data. But you also want to make sure that you're not leaving things lying around on countertops with people's name and email and phone number and address. Very important information that is just right there on the countertop for everybody to see. You want to make sure that you're keeping a clean desk policy, so to speak. You're making sure that's not visible to other customers. All those things, because if I see someone else's private information lying out there on the countertop, I start to think that maybe my private information is going to get seen by someone else. I want to be very clear about number 9 here. When I say competitive pricing, I do not mean that you should strive to be the lowest price. In fact, I'm a big proponent of being higher priced than your competitors and giving people a really good reason to pay that price. A Toyota Corolla is a magnificent car. A Toyota Corolla will get you where you want to go. Our daughter just sold one or she actually donated it. It's a car that we gave her when it had about 200,000 miles on it. She put another 100,000 miles on it. It started giving some problems, and she donated it to a group that was going to fix it and give it to a veteran. And that car, one of my favorite cars of all time, nothing fancy, just a great little Corolla. Why would I ever pay for a Rolls Royce? Well, a Rolls Royce is going to get you from point A to point B as well, but it's going to do it in a different style. It's going to be a status symbol. It's going to show people something about you. It's going to make you feel a certain way about yourself. And maybe you're willing to buy the Rolls Royce. Maybe you're willing to buy a Bentley. Maybe you're willing to buy a Ferrari. Heck, nowadays, maybe you're just willing to buy a Chevy truck. They're not that cheap either. But when we think about competitive pricing, I want to give you a couple of rules. If you increase your value, you should increase your price. If you are a better provider, if you serve your customers better, if you provide them with better service, better guarantees, if you deliver, if you make special orders for them, if you are better, then you should price higher. But you should never decrease your price without also decreasing your value. You should never decrease your price without lowering your value as well. So let's say that you usually deliver special orders when they come in. Okay, this is going to be here next week, but I can only get you this price if it's shipped to the store. Okay, well, when it's shipped to the store, we will deliver it for you. But can you get me a better price? Yep, I can give you a better price, but you have to come pick it up. I'm not going to deliver it to you for that lower price. Give people a really compelling reason to spend more with you. Be the Rolex, not the Timex. Be the Rolls Royce, not the Corolla. So competitive doesn't mean lowest. It means exhibit the highest value for the price you charge. Loyalty programs are huge. We started a loyalty program in our retail store back in 1996. Back when Subway was doing the little punch cards, and you could, you get 10 punches on your punch card, and you get a free sub. And I think there was an episode of Seinfeld in a bagel shop where Elaine hated the bagels, but she wanted the free bagel. She just kept getting the bagels because she wanted the free one. And so she would always go in and get her card punched, even though she hated the bagels. And so we actually had a punch card loyalty program that was wildly successful. And it just continued to grow year after year. And it was a very simple card. Well, today, if you use technology like Square, you can issue people their own loyalty card, or you can link it to their phone number, or you can just link it to their name, and you can say, hey, I know you. When you walk in here, you don't have to give me anything to be part of our loyalty program because we know you. We get you. We love you here, and we don't want you to shop anywhere else ever again. People want to be insiders. People want to feel like they have an inside track on something. And so that loyalty program might say, hey, I noticed that every time you come in and you buy a red sweater, well, I'm getting a shipment of sweaters next week. We're going to put those on the sales floor on Friday. I want to invite you to come in on Thursday and you get first pick. Man, talk about a loyalty program. Talk about convenience. Talk about personalization, a unique in-store experience. When you can say to somebody, you are now an insider, you're a valued insider, that we're going to give you special treatment. We're going to let you have first pick so that you can get that sweater. It's not going to be gone when you come in here. Now that person feels like they're part of the family. They're part of something. That brand authenticity, those values that say you care about me, that shines through. And that can go a long, long way to building your business. Now, there are some mistakes that we all make. And like I said, I've made these mistakes myself. One of the mistakes is that we don't have a business plan. Sometimes we just, hey, we're open, let's wing it. Yeah, man, whatever. Look, if you don't have a business plan, write a business plan. Most of the tribes that we've worked with, there's somebody in the tribe. It's either in economic development or in finance, or someone who, maybe you have a tribal CDFI. Maybe you have a tribal office that is dedicated to helping people build businesses. They will help you write a business plan. But if you don't have anything like that in your tribe, I'm going to have you go to, I'm just putting this in the chat, score.org. Score.org is a nationwide organization. It's funded by the Small Business Administration, but it's about 12,500 volunteers. These are people who have owned businesses, managed businesses, run businesses. They've written business plans, and they will help you for free. The beautiful thing about Score is, let's say you want to start an outdoor retail business. You want to start selling camping and hiking gear, outdoor survival gear, whatever. Over 75% of Score's counseling is done online. You can put in what you're looking for, and they will match you up with a counselor who may not be in your own backyard, may not be in your state, may be on the other side of the country, but they're going to match you up with someone who can guide you, not just in writing the business plan, but in putting that business concept together in a way that makes sense. Your gross margin is the difference between your selling price and what you paid for that item. And too many small businesses whittle that margin down to the point where they don't have enough to cover their overhead. They try to discount, they try to run sales. We had a store, it's about 45 minutes south of Cherokee, and it was an outdoor outfitter. And they called us and they said, is there any way you could help us? We've got to figure out how to get off this roller coaster, because people are now only shopping us during sales. Well, every season when they would get in new merchandise, they would run a sale. You know, as they started getting in their spring merchandise, they would run a sale to get rid of their winter merchandise. People became conditioned to only shop during the sales. And it eroded their gross margins to the point where they couldn't cover their rent, they couldn't cover their insurance, their payroll. We have to maintain gross margins. And this goes back to what I was saying right over here. Competitive pricing does not mean low pricing. Charge more and give people a good reason to pay it. Maybe instead of just coming in and buying a backpack, you're going to have a clinic on how to fit a backpack. You know, maybe you want the biggest backpack because you're going off on an extended hiking trip and you just want a big backpack. But maybe the biggest backpack is not built for you. Maybe because of your body size, your frame, your weight, your endurance capability. Maybe you just need a smaller pack that's more manageable for you. We're going to run a clinic on how to buy the right pack. If we start doing some of those things, that's excellent customer service, but that's also going to protect our gross margins. Failing to monitor cash flow. Cash flow is blood flow. If you run out of cash, your business is over. So you have to monitor cash flow on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. You cannot ignore this. And if you're not bringing in cash, if you're not bringing in sales, and if you're not able to handle those cash obligations that you have, like rent, insurance, payroll, advertising, all of those things, then it's going to hurt your business. Small retailers are pretty bad at marketing in a lot of cases. I've always said that bad marketing is easy because you just start throwing money at a newspaper, you just start throwing money on billboards. And we've had people come in and say, well, I spend $300 a month with the Cherokee One Feather and I'm not getting any customers. And my first question is, are your customers reading the One Feather? Every local reads the One Feather, but your customers are not from here. Your customers are tourists. They're not reading that. They're not seeing your advertising. So you're spending money on it, but you're not connecting with your customers. Or a lot of times what a small retailer will say is, well, I put 7% of my gross sales, and you can make up any other number, but a lot of times, 3%, 7%, 12%, whatever. They say I'm spending 7% of my gross sales on advertising and it's not working. Well, okay. Are you putting that 7% in the right places? Maybe 7% is not enough. Maybe you're putting it in the right places, but you need to spend 10%. There's not a hard and fast rule of thumb out there. I can't just say you should spend this much on marketing and advertising. It really depends on your own business. And this is why you want to sit down with a counselor to help you determine what is that sweet spot. And is there a time when you might be able to pull back a little bit on that? Maybe you need to start spending more money seasonally and things like that. It's not an all or nothing deal. Sometimes we're ignorant of our competition. So here's what I mean by that. We have two types of competitors out there. Every business has two types of competitors. We have direct competition. Direct competitors look like us, sell like us. They're located like us. They have customers that look like our customers. They do what we do. They're really easy to spot. You can drive by, you can spot them from a mile away. Direct competitors, Domino's and Pizza Hut and Luigi's Pizza or Leo's Pizza or whatever. Look, it's a pizza shop. Everybody can see that. Those direct competitors are easy. What they may be missing, though, is that sometimes you just want to stop by the grocery store and pick up a frozen pizza or one of those good old-fashioned Chef Boyardee pizza kits. You're going to make pizza at home. That's an indirect competitor. The direct competitors are easy to spot. The indirect competitors are not as easy to spot, but they're out there. So if we think about indirect competitors as being, let's call them alternatives and substitutes. Maybe I don't want pizza today. Maybe I want lasagna. Maybe I want tacos. Maybe I want a burger. Maybe I just want to put a pot roast in the microwave and go to work and have it ready when I get home. If we ignore all of the different types of competition we have out there, we start to get tunnel vision, and that's dangerous. We have to understand that we live in a world of alternatives and substitutes. And not all of those alternatives and substitutes look just like us. We try to spread our products too thin. Look, big box retailers, their products are an inch deep and a mile wide. And I'm going to go back to the camping thing for just a second. If you need a sleeping bag, you can go to Walmart or you can go to Target and they're going to sell you a Coleman or maybe a store brand sleeping bag. And Coleman's great. I used Coleman growing up. There's nothing wrong with Coleman. But if you're a hardcore backpacker, that Coleman is going to be a little bit big. It's going to be bulky. It's going to be a little bit heavy. It's not exactly what you're looking for. Maybe you need to be looking for a Mountain Hardware brand or something else. You're going to go to a specialty shop. That inch deep and a mile wide reference means that they carry one or two of everything, but they don't carry 10 of anything. If you come to my backpacking store, I'm going to show you 5 alternatives based on the type of climate you're going to be finding yourself in. Maybe you're looking for a 3-season backpack, 3-season sleeping bag. Maybe you're looking for something that's going to be perfect for an extended Arctic vacation. So I'm not going to have an inch deep and a mile wide product line. I'm going to have a product line that is an inch wide and a mile deep. I'm going to go deep on products because I want you to have options on the very thing you're looking for and the thing that you need. Again, I'm not going to carry one backpack because you might be a really small person with a really small frame and that big backpack is not for you. You might also be a really large person and that backpack that's built for a 110-pound woman is not going to do what you need it to do. So I don't want to spread out too thin, but I want to go really deep. And so just remember this. Here's a neat little phrase that's going to help. Niches make riches. Niches make riches. If we focus on just doing this one thing, doing it really well, then we can expand our product line as needed, but we don't want to be spread too thin. Sometimes retailers miss their target market. And by that, I mean they try to be all things to all people. Well, if you try to be all things to all people, pretty soon you're going to be nothing to nobody. If you know that your target market is teenagers between the age of 13 and 19 or 13 and 17, hey, advertise to the 13 through 17-year-old market. And I kind of use that just as an example because that's a pretty narrow market base. But if I'm selling clothing for teenagers, if I'm selling skateboarding things, I want to focus in on that target market. Now, could Grandpa Jones come in and buy a skateboard? Absolutely. Grandpa Jones has a grandchild who might want to get into skateboarding and they're just looking for, they know you sell skateboards. They just want to, they know nothing about it. Okay, that's fine. Grandpa Jones may never be back. But the 14-year-old who buys their replacement wheels, they buy their graphics, their stickers, their decals, everything, their t-shirts, they buy their music, their hats. They're going to be in there every week and sometimes multiple times per week because that's your target market. So if you focus on your target market, everyone else is still going to be able to shop with you. You're still going to get the message. They're going to know you exist, but you have to show the world that you're focused on this one group of target customers. Sometimes small retailers take the first thing that's available because it's cheap, and they end up with a really poor location with poor visibility. Now, the real estate market for retail goes like this. The higher the traffic, the higher the visibility, the higher the rent. So if you're willing to take a location in the back corner of an L-shaped shopping center where not a lot of people get to, it's going to be cheaper, but you're going to sacrifice traffic. There are no solutions here. There are only trade-offs. So if you want more traffic, if you want more visibility, you have to pay more for it. Now, I know that in a lot of locations, you're limited. You're not going to have a lot of retail availability. Maybe you're going to rely on pop-up shops. We've worked with the Eastern Band of Cherokee to do pop-up shops, and look, the Eastern Band has done a great job with food trucks in particular. I know a lot of places around us, Asheville in particular, some of the larger towns around Cherokee have regulated food trucks to the point where you just about can't find a food truck. You have to drive to the outskirts of town to find a food truck. Cherokee has been very welcoming to food trucks, allowing them to come in and have some visibility. In fact, we just had one food truck that I'm a little disappointed they didn't get a loan through Sequoia Fund, but it's one of our favorites. They sell authentic Hawaiian food. The guy he lives here now, but he's Hawaiian, and he sells some of the best Hawaiian food I've had since I was in Hawaii. And he had a food truck that was popular, wildly popular. Then he bought another food truck, and he made a permanent location beside a brewery with one of his food trucks. And then he bought a third food truck. And it just became this avalanche that he couldn't outrun, and he finally had to open his restaurant. We were there yesterday. Our entire staff closed the doors. We went to this restaurant, and you couldn't get in the door. It was bursting. But he picked a good location. It was high visibility, and it was in an area where a lot of tourists come, but it's easy for the locals to get there as well. Don't pick a location in the middle of a desert or on the top of a mountain just because the price is right. Remember that you're sacrificing something for that. The lack of online presence is huge because, well, I just don't have any skill. Okay, you don't have to be a website wizard to be able to build a website these days. And by the way, remember I said if you don't have a website, you're not even in business. I'm going to go so far as to say that one of the first things you should do as you start planning your retail business, create a Google My Business profile. The Google My Business profile is it's where people go to look for you. It's the information they get. It's the new modern phone book. If people are looking for what you sell and you're the first thing that pops up, and they get the little map and they have your hours and they know where you are and they know how to get to you and your phone number and link to your website, that is huge online presence, and it costs you exactly, write this down, it costs you exactly $0 to do that. And the toughest thing that you're going to have to do is wait around for them to call you to verify that you exist. That's it. A lot of small retailers have a do-it-yourself mentality. I'm going to do this. I'm going to spend $500 doing this myself when I could spend $1,500 and have it done right. But the $500 I'm spending now is going to make me close my store for a couple of days. I'm going to miss out on some sales. And what happens with a DIY mentality is I become a nickel holding up a dollar. And I don't want to do that. Maybe I can build my own website. Maybe I can create my own bookkeeping system. Maybe I can set up my Square account and load my inventory and link it to my QuickBooks. Maybe I can do that. But is that the best investment of my time? Or should I just hire a professional to take care of that for me? If you're building a business, if you are trying to grow your retail operation, the do-it-yourself mindset can get in your way. And finally, oh my goodness, skipping market research. Yogi Berra had a lot of yogiisms. There were a lot of things that he said that just sounded funny, but when you dig down deep, they're absolutely true. And he said, you can see a lot by looking around. Sounds funny, but it's, again, true. You can see a lot by looking around. So sometimes that market research is just, I'm going to look at my competitors. I'm going to sit outside their business and I'm going to watch who goes in, how many people walk in, how many people walk out with a purchase. Okay, if 100 people walk in and 20 people walk out with a purchase, that means they have a 20% conversion rate. Ask any retailer. They're going to tell you, well, my conversion rate's 80%. That means 80 customers out of every 100 who walk in buy something. Not true. Not true. On a good day, you might see 20 or 25%. The average might be much, much lower. A lot of retail operations, if they can hit 17% conversion rate on a consistent basis, they're at the top of their game. There are a lot of stores that do have a higher conversion rate simply because you're going to have things like impulse purchases. But think about the number of times you walked into a big box store and you walked out because they did not have what you wanted. You might have purchased something because you needed a pack of gum or you needed some Tic Tacs or whatever. but it wasn't what you went in there for. So you can see a lot by looking around, but you can also use things like ChatGPT and Google's Gemini, which are free, and they will help you do some market research. And you can ask them questions about, what do you sell? You can just say, I sell, and I'm going to go back to camping gear. I'm going to use that as my example today, but I sell camping gear. I'm located in blank, population of blank. We're near this major highway and that major highway. Ask me questions to help me develop a market research plan, and let the chat GPT guide you. You don't have to know what kind of questions to ask to do good market research. It will start to guide you, and then you just have a conversation with it. Let's talk about the powerless and the powerful for just a minute, because I see a lot of retailers, small retailers, feeling very powerless, and they hire people who they then take power away from. And if I've got somebody standing behind the counter working for me, and I'm paying them good money to be there, and they are powerless, they're going to hinder my business. They're not going to help my business. Powerless people make excuses. I can't come out. I can't take this out to your car. My boss says I have to stay inside the shop. I'm sorry, I can't hold the door for you. My boss says I have to stay right here behind the counter. No, I can't do that because I can't change that for you because my boss says we can't make any changes to custom orders. No, I'm sorry, I can't order that for you because my boss says I can't. I can't order those things for customers. We either have it or we don't. Powerless people make excuses. Powerful people do the right thing. Here's one example. You had 30 days to return this product. It's day 31. I can't take that from you because my boss says the policy is we have a 30-day return policy. A powerful person is going to do the return. It's day 31. Who cares? Take the return. Make the customer happy. Make them want to walk out saying, I love this place. They get me. I don't want to shop anywhere else. Powerless people are order takers. I'm going to sit behind the counter on my phone, and I'm going to wait until you walk up and throw your purchase on the counter. Powerful people create sales. Hey, I notice you're looking at that. Are you getting ready to take a trip? I've got some other styles in the back. Would you like to see that? I can go get those for you. Again, it's the difference between powerful and powerless. Powerless people focus on tasks. I can't help this customer right now because I've got to clean the counter. I've got to count the till. I've got to clean the windows. I've got to clean the mirrors. I've got to focus on tasks and I don't want customers getting in the way of my tasks. Hey, powerful people focus on results. And one of the results that you want is sell some stuff. Powerless people follow rules and powerful people think creatively. Powerless people cover their backsides. Hey, I followed policy, boss. I didn't do that. I just followed policy. Powerful people take risks on behalf of their customer, like the person who shopped at Nordstrom. This was back in the day when we had paper airplane tickets and we had no cell phones. Customer goes into a Nordstrom in New York City. She's making a purchase and she's on her way to the airport to take a trip. She leaves something on the counter, and in one of those things is her ticket. So the person behind the counter at Nordstrom gets in a cab, chases her to the airport, gives her back the merchandise that she left and gives her the ticket, heads back to the store, and Nordstrom didn't fire that person. Nordstrom paid the cab fare and put that person's picture on their wall of fame because they want people who will take risks on behalf of the customer. Here are some big box weaknesses. One is that they rely on transactional service. This is why when you go to a store, you're going to see all the information that you need about that product on the label. Why? Because people are messy. And if we keep people out of the equation, you're going to get more information. People are not going to mess this up and you're more likely to buy something. But transactional service is pretty impersonal. They have a generalist approach. Again, I'm going to sell one of everything. I'm going to have an inch deep and a mile wide inventory. And we don't really specialize in anything. What we specialize is in everything. They tend to pay low wages and have poor benefits. Walmart has been criticized for this over the years. They have to do better in certain places because now they're starting to realize that the prevailing local wage is preventing them from hiring good people, that everybody's going to these smaller retailers? Well, again, if sometimes the benefit that we offer might be flexible time. Sometimes a benefit that we offer doesn't have to be monetary. Maybe the benefit we can offer that Walmart or Target would never offer is 2 days in a row off. I worked in retail for years, and I could probably count on one hand the number of times I had 2 consecutive days off. If you don't ever have 2 days off together, you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, you can't start a project because you can't finish it. And all of a sudden, 2 days off in a row becomes a huge benefit. Remember I said that big box stores will write a check, but they won't show up. In small towns and small tribes and small places, small businesses can get t-shirts and show up for community awareness days. They can show up for elders days. They can show up to build ramps on people's homes. They can show up to do food distributions or water distributions. They can show up to do a lot of different things. Again, big box store will write a check, but all of a sudden you are there saying, hey, our community values align with your values. We're here. We're present. Big box stores are slow and inflexible. When they take on a new product, they have to know that that product is going to sell in 1,000 stores. You can buy that product because you know it's going to sell in your store. You can buy it right now, put it on the shelf tomorrow, and you can be quick about it. But big box stores are going to take their time because they have to do a lot more analysis on that. Again, they have a cold and impersonal feel because they're just big warehouses these days. Even some of the big, obviously Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, Dick's Sporting Goods is now a warehouse. I mean, heck, in some cases, CVS is starting, and Walgreens are starting to feel more like warehouses. But they're very cold and impersonal. One level of lighting for everybody. No music, no feel, no atmosphere. They have limited product knowledge because they use transactional services. They don't want you to learn about the products because you might talk to somebody. They have standardized store layouts. Now, you would think that standardized store layouts is a plus because if I go to another town and I walk into the store, I know exactly where something is. But those stores are laid out very scientifically to drive people in certain directions. Your store could be designed to make people feel a certain way, not necessarily to make them move in a certain direction. Now, you wouldn't think that lack of online presence is something that I would say is a big box weakness because they all have websites. You can order a television from walmart.com. They'll deliver it to your house. What I'm talking about is they don't have that small store feel on Instagram, on Facebook. They don't interact with people. They're there, but they're not really there. Or they will put canned artificial intelligence answers out there, and somebody will say, "I'm really disappointed with this product," and the response is, "We're so glad you bought that product. Let us know how we can help." Not exactly what they were going for. You can add a personal level to your online presence that outshines them. And of course, they lack cultural identity. They're a big box store. They have to have the same footprint, the same thing 3,000 times. They're not going to customize anything to the community where they are located. So here are some tactics that work. I'm going to give you 10 survival tactics that work. And we're just about out of time, so I'm going to move through these pretty quickly. I want you to be able to focus on exceptional customer service. I want you to think about how to create that in-store atmosphere with your lighting, with your scents, your smells. Coffee and vanilla are 2 scents that are universal in getting people to calm down, feel good, and feel at home and want to stay in a space longer. So if you have good smells, good sounds, good lighting, that's an atmosphere. If you don't put things right up against the front door and let people have a little time to adjust to being inside the store, that's a great atmosphere. Niches make riches. Start thinking about those deep product categories that people need. I mean, we've got stores now that I went into a store that only sells Japanese candy. Well, that was pretty cool. There's stuff that I would never, ever think to buy. We got to prioritize quality and freshness. Now, that's not just talking about good quality food. If you don't sell food, your freshness means that it's got to be up to date. It's not gathering dust. We have stores in Cherokee that have moccasins from 1988 in the window. They're dry, they're crusty, they're faded, but by golly, they bought them in 88 and they're going to sell them eventually. We need to engage with the local community. Don't be afraid to close your doors for a day and show up for a community event. Don't be afraid to close for a couple of hours and go out for that parade when the football team is going to the state championship. Hang out, be there with your t-shirts on and or your logo attire. Show people that your organization is going to be there for people. Look for ways to be omnichannel. You need to have a website. You need to have a Google My Business profile. You can do free social media. That doesn't cost you anything but time. But find out where your customers are, find out where they're looking for information, and be there. Try to find ways to leverage technology, even if that is, let me get your cell number. I'm going to text you when this product comes in. People prefer text, and that's an easy technology to leverage. Personalize your marketing. If you use ad visuals, if you use pictures in your social media, make it pictures of your customers using your products, wearing your clothing. Take pictures of local people. They love to see themselves, and they love to tell other people about the ads where they're featured. Be agile and responsive. When somebody says, can I have one of these? Can you get one of these? When can you get it? I'm going to put in an order right now. We're going to make sure we get that for you. Take care of your customers. Differentiate through your passion and your expertise. Show people that you're not just a nameless, faceless, big box wannabe, that you really care. Use critical numbers to drive your business. Pay attention to things like sales per employee, gross margin, sales per square foot. What is the average purchase that people are walking out with? If the average ticket keeps going up, that's a good sign. What is your conversion rate? Make little tick marks on a notebook. How many people walked in today? How many people walked out with a purchase? How often are people coming back? Those are really important things for you to remember. Those are things that you can use, and you can start recognizing faces. And if you know that someone comes in every 2 weeks and they buy $100 worth of goods from you every 2 weeks, okay, how many weeks do we have? We have 52 weeks a year. So if they come in 26 times a year, that's $2,600 that they're buying from you in a year. That customer now is worth $2,600 a year to you. And over the lifetime, what is the customer lifetime value? Those are important numbers for you to keep up with. I'm going to end with this because this is a little something that I think is just something we want to, when I say don't lower your price without also lowering your value, this goes right back to that first slide that we talked about. Our customers adhere to the law that they're going to go where they get good value. If they understand the value that you offer and you offer a high value, they're going to be very loyal customers. If you offer a high value, but they don't understand that value, that's a lost opportunity. If you offer a low value product and they don't really understand it very well, they just are not going to care. That's apathy. And that's the worst because you're never on their radar. Now, if you offer a low value product, but they understand what they're getting, hey, that's a habit. My mother lives 200 yards from a Dollar General, and she will buy batteries at Dollar General that will go dead in just a couple of days. They're low value batteries. They're terrible batteries, but they're cheap. And she knows that, and she will go there to buy her batteries rather than spending money on Duracell or Energizer or anything else, because it's a habit. She can run right down to the Dollar General. She can pick up her AA batteries or her AAA batteries or whatever it is she needs, that's a habit for her. She's never going to get out of that habit. She's never going to go shopping for better batteries. So these are things that you need to pay attention to. The last thing that I'm going to give you is an exercise for you. On the left, I want you to take a piece of paper and list out what is the value you offer to your customers. That value could be in your products, it could be in your pricing structure, it could be in the services that you offer, it could be in your location, whatever that value is. And then I want you to write down how you communicate that value to your customers. Once you start making those connections, you're on your way to killing giants. Folks, you can download this entire presentation. So you'll have these slides. If you go over to the files, you'll see that the presentation is in a PDF format right there. You can download that, hang on to this, share it with your friends. The deal that I make with the Native Learning Center is that if you leave this webinar and you have questions later, you can always contact me. Get in touch with me. Say, hey, Russ, I was in your retail webinar. I've got a question. I'll be more than happy to talk through some things with you. Don't want to leave you hanging, because if you ain't got it, I ain't taught it. And I want to make sure that your retail business or those that you help are the best they can be. Folks, you could have spent the last hour and a half doing almost anything in the world, and I'm really honored that you would spend it with me. I'm going to turn this back over to Brooke. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Russ. This was really informative and fantastic for a Friday afternoon or Friday morning, wherever y'all are. I'm going to go ahead and launch today's webinar feedback survey. If y'all could take a minute to complete that, please. As always, it just takes a minute or two to go through, and the information really helps us to know what's working well for our webinars and what we could improve upon for the future. We hope you can join us for our next webinar. That's going to be next week on August 7th. This is going to be about home loans, presented by Marie Bonville. Registration is going to be free like always. And feel free to access this as well as any of our other recorded webinars online. If you go to our website, nativelearningcenter.com, there is a Catheta webinars section, and there's a recorded webinars tab where you can access this, and it goes back about 2 years. So feel free to send those to your friends, send them to your colleagues. Please also check out our upcoming events posted to our various social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We have our in-house produced podcast, the Hopathanga Native American podcast. You can listen to that on Simplecast, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you could watch the recordings of us interviewing our guests on YouTube. All right, y'all. Thank you again so much for joining us today. We hope you have a fantastic weekend. What a wonderful way to spend our Friday afternoon. I am going to go ahead and close out, but we hope to connect with you again really soon. Everyone have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thanks, Russ.